The thing that Charlie and I did see very early by going to those places was we saw the radicalism. If a well-known influencer of the left had been executed the exact same way as Charlie, we know that cities would be burning down right now. If you break the law, you should be dealt with. If they're just saying mean things, if they want to say mean things and call half of us, half the country Nazis and the rest of it, well, that's the exchange we have with free speech. It's an incredibly difficult time right now. Charlie was a good friend of mine. He was a colleague. We toured together, did many, many dozens of shows, very similar to the one in Utah the other day. We welcomed debate. Charlie was the one who taught me something that I now do at all of my public events, which is during the Q&A session, invite people up who disagree with us first. Don't just invite the people who agree with us to say nice things about us. He welcomed debate, and we need more of that, and my fear right now is that we're going to actually get less of it as a result of this.
You've done events exactly like the one where Charlie Kirk was shot. Tell us what it's like right now, safety on campus. Are you looking at your own security?
I mean, look, we're all thinking about this. Anyone who does this publicly for a living and talks about politics and controversial things, I think, is reevaluating things. I will tell you that the escalation that has happened on college campuses has been happening for about a decade. And Charlie and I would go to events and we'd have fire alarms pulled and they'd call in bomb threats and they'd throw things at us and, chant and to disturb us and all of those things. And in some sense, at the beginning, it was not that it was fun exactly, but it was like, oh, this is just some crazy circus. But I think the thing that Charlie and I did see very early by going to those places was we saw the radicalism. And a lot of people said, when we were talking about this radicalism, or what a lot of people now called wokeness, when we were talking about it in 2017, 2018, a lot of people said, oh, they're just college kids, and don't worry, when they get out of college, the real world will put them in their place. And I think what we have found over the course of the last 5 years, let's say, is that the real world has really acquiesced to the extremists, and that's what we're going to all have to grapple with. We certainly have to grapple with it in America. I think you have a different version of it across the pond, and again, the only way out, there's only one way out of it, and it's the thing that Charlie stood for, which is talking to the other side.
It's not just the radical left, though, is it? The President Trump blamed the radical left almost immediately, but you can't surely just think it's just the left which has heightened its rhetoric and become more and more extreme.
I'll give you a good example of why the comparison that it's not equal on both sides. Of course, there are people on the right that say bad things. Obviously, there are. I don't pretend that there aren't. But the reason it's not exactly the same is we know that if a well-known influencer of the left had been executed the exact same way as Charlie, we know that cities would be burning down right now, and it would be being egged on by many of the mainstream Democrats. Meanwhile, look what has happened here. Charlie gets executed in the most brutal, cold-blooded, horrific event that I think I've ever seen in my life. And it's peaceful. People are praying. People are talking to each other. I'm on this show talking about how we have to have a handout. So of course both sides are guilty of things at times. Of course we all ramp up the rhetoric in ways that probably are not helpful at times. But it is certainly not symmetrical.
But going back to Donald Trump quickly coming out and blaming the radical left, is that the way to dial down the temperature?
Well, I think the right way to turn down the temperature in America is for everyone to sit with what Charlie's message was. So as to Trump's comments specifically, we will find out more about the shooter. The only person who should truly be blamed in these incidences is the person that pulls the trigger. Rhetoric is rhetoric. We can all say things. This is the exchange of free speech that we have. If you're going to have a society that respects free speech, which is the First Amendment of the United States Bill of Rights, then people are going to say some things that you're not going to like. Could we all be a little bit better? And does that include Donald Trump? Yes, I will grant you that.
I want to ask you about your stance as a libertarian, and how you would feel if there was as some are calling for, a crackdown, a prescription, a banning of certain groups, certain movements on the left. How would that sit with you, given your libertarian politics?
Sure. I wouldn't ban a group based on speech. I think what you can do is use the law when actions turn into criminality. If someone is in Antifa, to whatever extent Antifa is an actual, organization, to whatever extent it actually has an organizational lineup that, that orders people to do things, if you break the law, you should be dealt with. If they're just saying mean things, if they want to say mean things and call half of us, half the country Nazis and the rest of it, well, that's the exchange we have with free speech. So I think it's very important, especially now as temperatures are rising here, that we realize there is a difference between speech and action, and the only people that we should really be angry at right now, we should all perhaps want each other to tone down the rhetoric, but the only person who killed Charlie is the person who pulled the trigger, and it sounds like we have him in custody right now, thank God.
I wonder what you make of the comments by the Republican governor of Utah, who said this is bad as the 1960s in America, and specifically blaming social media for that.
Yeah, look, there is I don't know that it's as bad as the 1960s, but there is a deep, deep pain in America right now. And when you feel that pain as a country, it puts you in a tinderbox situation where if something else happened over the next couple days, it does feel like things could spin wildly out of control. As to the social media component of it, look, we all have to think what our relationship with social media is. Look, the word social is in it, social media, but in many ways it made us more antisocial. It made us more anxiety-ridden. We stare at our phones and doom scroll. We have no idea what it's done to our brains, our behaviors, our social conditions, and more. So I don't blame social media in that it is a tool. How can we use it for a force for good? But can you control all the bad things that are on there? And can you control human behavior? Probably not.
Just finally, I just want to ask you, because I know lots of our viewers in the UK will be looking across to the US, and your laws on guns and the availability and accessibility to guns, and lots of people in the UK frankly find that baffling. Has this incident, the death of your friend Charlie Kirk, in any way given you pause to think again about the access that people have to guns in America?
No, absolutely not. And I think that in your country, a lot more, there would be a better respect for free speech, quite frankly, and there would be more people who would feel safe if they had more access to guns and felt that they could defend themselves. A well-armed populace, which was what the founders talked about, was not to have mob rule and start murdering people. There's always going to be bad people out there. It was to defend yourself, your life, your property, your family, and to defend yourself, your community from tyranny. So I think the fact that America, look, a gun is a weapon. People could stab people too. You guys have had plenty of stabbings in the UK. There are weapons that will kill people, but infringing on our Second Amendment rights, which I know that there's a gut impulse to do right now, would be the worst thing, and certainly not something Charlie would be for.